Just as we started the show, I realized we should have used our crappy fanfare today instead of our usual theme music. I think today it really calls out for our crappy fanfare. So let me tell you what's happening. What's happening now is something that has happened, I think, since 2010. I'm not 100% sure that our two in-studio analysts have been with us that whole time, but we've certainly been doing an NCAA March Madness show since 2010.
This is our 10th anniversary?
You have to go actually talk into the microphone. Square your shoulders up so you're talking into the microphone. This is the way radio works.
I was wondering what this thing is.
That thing there is the microphone. There you go.
That's it.
She doesn't like it when you do that. Wolfie really doesn't like it when you do that.
Wow, that's a microphone.
You can see how much we've learned in a decade.
Right. So here's our crappy fanfare. Let's just let that play a little bit. I think this sets the tone better.
Yeah.
So
I find it personally more fitting.
I haven't even introduced you yet. So our in-studio analyst, Bill Curry, political commentator, two-time Democratic nominee for governor of Connecticut, former White House advisor in the Clinton administration, and self-styled basketball analyst. Julia Pastel knows nothing about basketball, and if she's been doing this for 9 years, it has changed nothing about that personal condition. She's a writer, podcaster, comedian. She's the host of the podcast Literary Disco and managing director at CT Improv in Hartford. Later on the show, as we've been doing since 2010, we will talk to the president of Wofford College. The Wofford Terriers are having a very big year this year. And then we're going to go live to the Civic Center. We're going to introduce a new feature on the Colin McEnroe Show NCAA special. It's AccuFrankie.
AccuFrankie.
And that'll be Frankie Graziano live from the Civic Center, where he is right now. Once again, that's called
AccuFrankie.
Don't do that again.
AccuFrankie.
We really like this a lot. So
Wolfie really listens to me.
Yeah.
AccuFrankie.
You're good. The more you talk about it, the worse you're going to make it.
AccuFrankie.
So let's instead, just to change the mood a little bit. So Julia, I think it's time for you, every year, you adopt a new method for trying to game this complex field of 64 college basketball teams. Now is the time that you reveal this year's method.
Sure.
Can I just say one thing before she starts? This is an insult to college basketball. Okay, go ahead.
I've beaten you more often than not, so
that's
I
also
believe
an
that's
insult
the
to
point
me.
of this.
It's an insult to me as well, yes.
In the past, I've chosen everything from state mottos. Last year, I did weird attractions in the towns where the colleges were located. But this year, and then, the classic mascots, which is like if you want to be cute, that's the lazy.
That was very early in your career as a basketball analyst. Yeah.
A classic.
But I am most proud of my first year where I anagrammed all the team names. So this year, I'm going back in that styling. But I'm a parent now of a child, and so is the producer of this show, Jonathan McNichol. And he just had a baby. So in the stylings of Dr. Seuss, I have decided to make rhymes of every team name and just match those up against each other.
So give us a sample. Don't do Wofford. We're saving that for the beat. But give us one or two samples of what you've done here.
Sure. No problem. All right. So let's see. We have Gonzaga versus Fairleigh Dickinson. Mm-hmm. So I changed that to Don Saga. So like a mob boss saga. Against Rarely Sick and Fun. So they're rarely sick or fun. So they're just kind of middle of the road.
Sure.
So obviously Don Saga is going to win.
I
got that one.
Yeah,
exactly. So as you guys can tell, this is a foolproof method for judging how cool and or powerful the teams are.
Fool, definitely. We could go with the first syllable. One thing you may not know is that earlier today, Fairleigh Dickinson was upgraded to Very Dickinson. So I don't know how that affects your
selection committee. Well, they can do whatever they want.
So give me and Bill one more example.
Sure. Let's see. Okay. I think I was hungry and family oriented while doing this because a lot of these, came out food related or something.
Right.
But we have Virginia versus Gardner Webb, and so I changed that to your in-law versus Charred by Deb. So Deb, I guess, is a cook, and she chars her food.
Yeah. How would that go, though? Would you pick the charred food over your in-law?
Yeah, I would. And now some of these are very personal, It depends on your in-law.
Don't bring your family into this. This may be my only advice. Yeah.
Right. But I have a lot of cool aunts, and, of course, Vermont turned into your aunt. So your aunt got very, very far in my bracket.
Oh, all right. So good news for the Catamounts.
For sure.
So now Bill would actually like to talk about the things that he thinks that he knows about the basketball games that don't involve rhymes, food, roadside attractions, or anagrams.
I just want to say before you start, Bill and I were heckling each other online, as is our tradition, and my mom put up, make sure you add these schools to the bracket. So I just want to
You can't just add schools to the bracket.
Yeah,
that
I'm
aren't
just
in the
saying
bracket.
it's genetic. This is a family trait of having no
it's
idea
just
how
a
this
thing
works.
the Pistels just don't understand, and they never will. All right, so you would probably like to talk about, for example, here in Hartford, the games are here in Hartford. Pretty soon we'll be going to the XL Center a little bit later in the show with a special report from... She wasn't ready.
Sleep at the
She
wheel.
wasn't ready.
First of all,
F you, Frankie.
I just want to say first that this is the 10th year in a row which Colin has promised me that I'd be in the studio with Dick Vitale.
Right.
Okay, and it always turns into something very different here.
Mm-hmm.
You're
like the only person
it's
I
a
can
real
think of.
basketball.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like a real basketball thing.
The idea that
whereas
you
this
would
is
want to
just
be in
plain
a
nuts.
studio with Dick Vitale shows a certain personal shortcoming.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
Yeah, nothing everyone didn't already know about.
Yeah.
I would just like to say, okay, I had a couple of serious basketball notes. One, Hartford fans really are lucky to have this bracket here in Hartford today. Just after this show ends, I'm not sure what's televised where. So you may have to get on the Civic Center and try to grab a ticket. But there's a guy named Ja Morant.
J.A.
Ja. And it's not
like Ja Rule.
Colin wonders if this is related to Jorah Mormont from
Right.
Game of Thrones. This is, to the best of my knowledge, no relation at all.
But you never know with
True.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And this is my segment, okay?
You get to talk during her segment.
All right. So you're right. You never
It
know.
is like a family.
You never know for sure. This kid's averaging 24 points a game. I've seen him a couple times on television, never in person. He scores 24 points a game and dishes out 10 assists.
Plays for Murray State.
Plays for Murray State, and he's here in the Civic Center. A game starts around 2:15, 2:30, and he dishes out 10 assists a game. The all-time assist leader in the history of college basketball is Bobby Hurley, whose career average was 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
And Hurley probably scored about 10 points a game. This kid dishes out 10 assists while scoring 24 points. Maybe Oscar Robertson did it. So you want to see the most entertaining person in college basketball, for my money, is this Ja Morant, and he's right here in Hartford.
By the way, it's called the XL Center.
It's called the XL Center, yeah. And after it, did you know why?
Because they thought it was really big when they made it. But it turns out it's not that big.
Okay. And it also turns out that's not the reason. And here's where we are at Hartford. We have a Civic Center, and no one knows why it's called the XL Center. And it turns out it's the name of a company that's not even headquartered here.
It's Marty and Joan XL. It's a family name.
That's right. Who are friends of yours.
It's a family name.
You helped put the whole deal together.
Right.
So there's a great game in Hartford, a couple of great games. And I'd also point out in Hartford there are two Big East teams playing. The Big East, which was UConn's old conference, has 4 teams in the tournament, including the defending national champion Villanova. And this just goes to my original point that made years ago on this show that we should have stayed in the Big East. This is a basketball state, not a football state. It's a basketball school.
So while you're talking, I'm having Julia look up her Villanova rhyme so we can get to it. But while she does that, finish your thought. Because I don't think her notes are particularly orderly. I don't think she can just go right to Villanova when I mention it.
No.
And so here's the deal about college basketball in general. Although just one last sort of general comment. And these games, the teams that are here in Hartford exemplify it, but so do almost all the teams in every bracket. And that is, when basketball fans talk, you'll hear people say a lot, I don't like the NBA. I prefer the college game. Well, they're almost indistinguishable now. And the influence of the NBA and the rules changes and cultural changes have gone on. When we were kids, the most famous basketball players were all really tall. Wilt, Kareem, Russell.
Also, we were shorter, so they might have seemed taller.
Yes, but
it's like the snowbanks and stuff. They seem bigger too.
But that's so far from the point I'm making. It's hard to even measure the distance. And now a lot of them are your size. It's a funny thing you didn't make it, but
well, I have
the game is opened up,
back, and tooth and Achilles.
Yeah,
bones.
that whole knee replacement thing
Right.
probably slowed you down a little
Have
bit.
you found your Villanova
Made you
rhyming?
more of a power forward than a point guard.
All right, we're going to go to Villanova in the first round. I don't know who they're playing, though.
Sure. So they're playing St. Mary's. So, of course, this rhyme is actually a matchup between Quaint Dairy and Scylla Scolder. So Scylla, of course, being the siren from the Odyssey.
How does Scylla Scolder? That rhymes with Villanova?
It's hard. It's hard to rhyme with Villanova.
It's like
you
rock and roll
guys.
lyric rhyming, you know, where you don't have to. You only need the vowels. You don't really need the consonants.
Right.
That's what she's doing.
Yeah. But
all you need is
also-
a simple 4/4 rhythm and a couple
Exactly.
couple
And
chords.
creativity, you guys. And
We don't know
the
about
other
that.
Hartford game, Murray State versus Marquette, I was excited about this one. So it's furry trait. And, with Marquette, if Marie Kondo came in, there's no joy involved. But does Marquette spark sweat? I think yes.
So
they made it pretty far.
A
in
furry
my bracket.
trait would be not as good as sparking sweat.
No, sparking sweat.
Is
You
that like
want
a
your
Marie-
basketball
is that-
players to spark sweat.
Is that like a Marie Kondo thing, like sparking joy and sparking sweat?
Oh my gosh, not sweat, but it is now.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk about vasectomies. I think we have to go there right now.
Is Murray State in
Not
Murray Hill?
Frankie. We're just doing vasectomies right now. No, Murray State is not in Murray Hill. That's a Tony neighborhood in New York City.
Yeah.
So
Nothing to do with the old Mary Tyler Moore show.
nothing to. No, I think it is named after that guy.
After Murray?
Yeah, named
Yeah.
after that. I think it is named after Murray.
See?
So, you're getting to the spirit
Yeah,
of this.
I got some pop culture
Yeah.
riffs I can do here. Well, that's it. But,
Right.
I had those. Yeah.
So we're going to talk now about an interesting statistic which I located earlier today. I think my friend Mr. Karp sent it to me, but it turns out there is a spike in vasectomies, a discernible spike in vasectomies prior to the first weekend of March Madness, particularly tomorrow, because the idea is you go in, you get snipped, and then there are even practices that have special discounts and ice bags with team logos on them and stuff like that. So you go home and you hold the ice bag to the affected area and you watch basketball for a couple of days and time passes. So I'm going to go to Julia first on this one.
I'm for it.
You're for it? Which part of it are you for?
I think, vasectomies, I've never had one.
No.
But I think they're great. It's a way to take the onus of birth control only off women or off only women.
But did you think it's kind of a guy thing that, this is an in and out procedure, so to speak.
Sure.
And so the whole, I think, planning like a whole weekend of rest and icing and basketball and not having to do anything. This is like quickie day surgery. But you think there's like if a woman had an equivalent thing, she'd be like vacuuming that afternoon.
I
Well,
don't
maybe
know
not yet,
about
but-
that. I think it's a good idea. Well, I do agree that a lot of women like to cram in things and be productive. But I'm for more resting.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of scheduling a procedure against something you really want to watch. That's fun. And what I'm really for is hospitals like going for it and advertising this. I feel
Right.
like I read in the article you sent out, like they make ice
Yeah,
bags
ice
with
bags.
the
I was just saying that.
yeah, and that's hilarious, and everyone should do it. Everybody should get a vasectomy this weekend. Why not? I hear they're reversible.
I hear.
Until you said that last thing, I was going to
yeah.
point out the fallacy in what you were saying. But anyway,
Yeah.
yes.
I've no idea why this topic makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I would just like to point out that the scientific method here reminds me a lot of Julia's. Okay, and there's just not. Who knows? It's March. Okay, it could be St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Okay, it could be that the vasectomies go up because every year this also at this exact same time it's St. Patrick's Day. Everybody gets a little tipsy and they decide this is the moment and they go out and celebrate by getting vasectomies. The last part of this doesn't hold up that
No.
well.
It doesn't make any sense.
Although, if you thought you were going to drink a lot and make ill-advised personal choices, getting a vasectomy ahead of time.
It's the first day of spring, and they're thinking about procreation and all the issues that are raised by it. There's so many possible explanations that are at work here. And
when
I
have
just
the
feel-
Irish ever exercised any forethought?
But I think we're workaholics.
Oh, wow.
About, well, it's true. We can say this. It's our people.
In America, we're workaholics. So this is just an elaborate way to get out of work and watch basketball during the week. That's what this is.
You think that men who are desperate to watch basketball get vasectomies as an excuse because they ran out of all the others?
Because they've been putting it off. They're meaning to do it. And then they're like, I'm going to use this as a way to get out of work for a few days.
Okay.
That's my guess.
Yeah.
So, Betsy Kaplan wants us to talk about mascots. Do we have any strong feelings about mascots?
Well, I just got to, I saw those nasty-looking mascots that
Panther Pete.
you circulated. And again, I also saw a certain anti-Irish thing in that
those Gales.
The Iona, the
Iona
Gales.
And St. Mary's has the Gales.
The Iona is the Killians, I happen to know. Yeah, and St. Mary's has the Gales. And it reminds me of Lucky the Leprechaun up in the Boston Garden. I mean, it's really an extended trope against my people.
Well, my people too, but I'm
a little offended. And from St. Mary's of all places.
The Celtics one doesn't look like it would bite your throat. The other one's dangerous.
The other ones look truly
dangerous.
They
seem dangerous, like
deranged.
they want to come out of the ground in the middle of the night and surprise you as you're walking down a dark lane, in the West Country and kill you and take your soul.
And what is Ole Miss doing with a land shark?
I know. Yeah, I don't understand why Ole Miss has a land shark mascot. I do not understand.
At least it's creative. I can't take any more big cats.
You don't like big cats?
We're still on the mascots topic? Yeah.
Yeah. No, generally. Yeah. No, I'm not against big cats as a, genus or whatever. But, I like the land shark. I like it when it's more creative and weird.
Well, the most creative and weird one, really, St. Louis University has the Billiken. And the Billiken is this kind of strange fairy-like thing that is the fairly recent product of some author's imagination. I mean, there isn't some long folk tradition of the Billiken. Mm-hmm. And it looks upsetting and frightening, but it's just kind of out of nowhere.
Is there any folk tradition of the Billiken, or did they just make the thing up?
It's something from a book. I don't know. I don't think I have it here in my notes.
It's like Harry Potter being your mascot all of a sudden.
Sort of. Like Harry Potter plus 100 years, something like that. But there's no reason to have a Billiken as your mascot, and people don't know what it is. It's I went to a high school, where the mascot was the wyvern, and we had to explain to people all the time what a wyvern was, and then they would beat us up because we had a mascot that wasn't a panther. But a Billiken is even you would really. It's we'd be here all day trying to figure out what a Billiken is.
I went to Georgetown, which makes me a Hoya.
Yeah, Hoya. What is a Hoya?
It isn't.
I know. I ask you this all the time. It must be a thing.
It's a mixed Latin-Greek cheer, Hoya saxa, meaning what boulders chanted at football games in the 1890s, and somehow life went on, and when they ended up being the Hoyas instead of the Saxes. So the word just means what?
Yeah. What?
The Hoya what's?
What?
The what's?
What?
And that's what they built it. It's sort of also the Yukon mascot. I've always been for revisiting that. I mean, it's too late now. The Huskies are beloved, but the fact that our mascot is just a play on words.
It's a pun.
We're not Yukon.
It's a pun.
We're not the Alaskan
Yukon Huskies.
We're the University of Connecticut.
That was one of my heroes is the British comedian.
We could be the actuary.
Frank Skinner, who says that his is from the IEM, and that's the idiotic eureka moment. And that's when you realize something that everybody else knew.
Has known forever.
Yeah. So I was probably
thousands of those.
It was probably within the last 8 to 10 years that it dawned on me that Yukon Huskies was sort of a joke, sort of a pun. It just had never occurred to me that was the case. I just, that was what they were. That was the mascot. So
when I was accepted at UConn Law School, my college roommate for almost a month thought I was moving to Alaska.
Well, that would have been. See, that would have tipped me off. I wouldn't have had to wait so long for my IEM. So Julia, give us one more matchup from the first round, and then we're going to take a break pretty soon. Get ready for our visit with the president of Wofford.
Sure. Okay. So one of the first ones we have Duke versus North Dakota State. And at this point, I was doing full team names. So the Duke Blue Devils became the Fluke Moo Levels, and North Dakota State turned into, let's see. I can't even read my own writing.
You can't read your own handwriting.
Oh, North Dakota. I wrote, call for the quota. So quotas or cows? I decided
Were you
cows
sort of drinking as more and more as you went through this bracket?
No, I was just grabbing words. It was really fun. Yeah, here's another one. Mississippi State became Kiss His Hippie Date.
Oh, that's good. I like it. That's very good.
And let's see. Virginia Tech became Surgeon Wreck. So I was just really having fun. I was getting into the poetry of it.
In that matchup, what would prevail?
Well, in that matchup, Kiss His Hippie Date, that went really far. I was really delighted with myself. Yeah. Plus, I felt like that was a good defensive move in a ball game is just start kissing people.
Right. Okay, do one more.
Probably
there should be one that Bill and I can kind of react to, like whether it really would play out very well.
Okay, let's see. Here we go. Syracuse versus Baylor. So these are very simple words, right?
Yes.
So Syracuse, I turned into beer and booze.
Mm-hmm.
And then Baylor, in the Connecticut spirit, I just turned into the Whalers.
Right.
So beer and booze versus the Whalers. Who would you guys pick?
I guess I would, I don't know. I've always had a little problem with the fact that we had a hockey team called the Whalers, because it's like having a football team called the Strip Miners or something. Like whaling isn't really cool anymore.
Right.
So I guess I would go with the beer and booze over the Whalers.
Yeah, I'd say the Whalers win unless they're on like shore leave.
Okay, so so who's right?
I said Whalers.
The Whalers.
Yeah.
I said Whaler.
Is there a prize here?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think you can say that about the entirety of this show.
Oh, okay.
There's no prize. Everyone
prize.
loses when we do this show.
But there is. But let's face it. If you don't mind my just interjecting here, Julia's crazy, and it goes back to the one that I always remember the most. So whose mascot can eat whose mascot or beat him in a fight? Yes, the Bearcats will beat the Gophers. We know that.
Yeah.
But who wins, a Gator or a Blue Devil? Well, you're off in cartoon land, and there's no way to tell. Now,
a Gator
that was the year that she definitely beat my bracket, which was based upon my lifetime of playing and watching basketball and predicting who would win. So,
yeah.
But let me say this, every year I start with the intention, when we walk out of the studio today, I'm going to be like, this is the year. I'm going to pay attention and learn about basketball. But how can you possibly keep up with this many teams with players who change over every couple of years?
Right.
So it's impossible. It's a losing game. So why not make it fun?
Right. And
it is fun already. Yeah. Yes.
Right.
It's already fun.
All right. This would be a bad way to try to learn about basketball. Like, it would be easier to learn about basketball just watching a game, as opposed to 32 games in one action-packed weekend. I actually will say one serious thing about you're talking about the changes between when we were kids watching basketball and now. Another thing that happens now, and I didn't completely grasp this until I was listening to Hang Up and Listen, the excellent sports podcast this week, and Josh Levine, who was on the show with me on Monday, they were talking about the fact that increasingly what happens on these teams is that Duke or Kentucky will, instead of having a class, having a team that's very attached to being a Blue Devil or being a Wildcat, they get 5 guys who kind of know each other and been communicating a little bit about where they're going to go to school. They've been talking, and they sort of figure out, well, let's all go to Duke, and we'll all play there for 1 year, and then we'll all go to the NBA, or let's all go to Kentucky. And so their allegiance, when they talk about their brothers, what they mean are these other 4 guys that they agreed to go to college with for 1 year.
John Calipari was one of the inventors of this. He coached at UMass. He's now at Kentucky. He averages 3 NBA picks out of every graduating class.
Yeah,
3 per class, and so it is this. It was why, speaking of Dick Vitale, was quoted this week as saying we ought to start paying these people. This has become something other than amateur athletics a long time ago, and he was responding to this. There was this big incident this year. For the people who don't follow basketball, Zion Williamson was playing a big game for Duke. It was such a big game against Carolina. Barack Obama and 10 other celebrities were there, Spike Lee. And he went down very early on in what looked like it could be a career-threatening injury because a sneaker blew open.
Yeah.
And it just reminded everybody that this guy had like a $100 million career on the line in a sport for which he was being paid nothing.
Do you know where Zion Williamson is really from, where it would have made sense for him to go to school?
Utah.
No. But you're going to find out. Zion, Utah. I see what you did there. Good guess. Julia's going to look up her Wofford pick. We are going to take a little break. We're going to come back and have one of our very frequent visits with the president of Wofford College. We are big fans.
It's time for March. It's time for March. God loves a terrier. Yes, he does. God loves a terrier. That's because small, sturdy, bright, and true, they give their love to you. God didn't miss a stitch. Be it dog or be it when he made the Norwich merrier with its cute little derriere. Yes, God loves a terrier.
That is actually not the fight song of Wofford College, though they are the Terriers. And we have been fans of Wofford since 2010, by my calculation. That was when we had the then president, President Dunlap, on for the first time. Wofford, back in those days, was typically like a 16 seed or a 14 seed. For those of you who don't translate this stuff very well, it kind of means that you've got, in the case of Wofford, they'd won their conference. Their conference isn't a gigantic powerhouse conference, so they had an automatic bid to the NCAAs, but they weren't going to get any kind of prestigious seed. So, 16, 15, 14, something like that. Things are different now, but one thing that hasn't changed is our tremendous allegiance to this plucky South Carolina school. And joining us now is the president of Wofford College. It is Nif Samhat, and we are very, very excited to keep this tradition going. So you're actually not in Spartanburg, South Carolina right now, right? You're where the action is.
Yes, thanks for having me on the show and that wonderful tune for Wofford, the Wofford Terriers. We are a whole bunch of Terriers are in Jacksonville, Florida at the moment.
So you're in Jacksonville. That's where your first game is. And we should say that this time, no 16 seed, no 14 seed. Wofford has come in with a real powerhouse rating. You're a 7th seed, which puts you in the upper half of your bracket. What's going on there this year?
Well, I tell you, 7th seed, I think number 13 in the net, NCAA net, number 19 in the AP top 25. All of it reflects what has been an extraordinary year for basketball at the college. Coach Young and his staff and the group of young men have just had an unbelievable year. I think all of us are pinching ourselves, undefeated in the Southern Conference, which has been this year a really outstanding conference. Lots of high-quality teams in the conference, and we've been just had a very fortunate year with highly skilled and dedicated players and coaches.
So I want to ask you about a few traditions that have popped up this year. Tell us about snack time.
Yes, snack time. Everyone loves snack time. You win a game, you go to a gas station store and you buy snacks, and they tweet it out. And you win a game at home, they throw snacks into the boneyard where all the students are.
So the team when they win, they celebrate by going to like a convenience store, gas station, buy as many exotic and strange snacks as they can find, and then they either eat them or throw them to the fans at the next opportunity?
Absolutely. It's great.
Sounds wonderful.
Oh,
so you also have cafeterias.
Yeah, they have cafeterias. Yeah. They can get green leafy vegetables when they need to.
Just
so
checking.
You don't become a number 7 seed just eating crappy snacks from convenience stores.
We like high quality snacks.
Right.
Healthy and high quality.
So we need to talk a little bit about your mascot situation. Now, you had an actual dog, a real dog, a Boston Terrier named Magnolia. But my understanding is Magnolia does not participate or has retired or will not be participating as a live animal mascot in this particular draw.
That's right. We do have our furry, lovable mascot, Boss, who is coming to the game and comes to all the games. But our loyal terrier didn't travel with us this time.
All right. You got to be careful with that. Yeah, got to be careful with that term "furry." But actually, this is anyway a person inside a terrier costume, a Boston Terrier costume.
Yes.
So we have
a person.
So President Samhat, we have here in the studio Julia Pistel. She's kind of a basketball savant. I'm not going to say basketball idiot savant. I'm just going to say basketball savant. She has a different technique for predicting the outcomes of games. Every single season, she develops something new. This year, she's essentially using rhymes. She's using the rhymes of the two teams. So you, by now, have located Wofford in the first round. So how does it look to you? Yeah.
Well, obviously, you guys are the cough nerds. That's...
Cough nerds?
Yeah, the cough nerds. That's going to be their strategy. They're going to cough on people, get them sick. It's still winter here. That's very threatening to us here in Connecticut. But I'm happy to tell you that that's a really good strategy for you guys because you will, of course, defeat Sweet and Tall, a.k.a. Seton Hall. And then you're going to go on to defeat oh, my God. I was really crazy when I wrote this one. Abilene Christian. I wrote Cable Teen Bliss Spin, as in like a teenager on a drama spinning around because they're so happy. So you're also going to defeat them. And then you're also going to defeat Go Cry, though, which is, of course, Ohio. So you guys made it really far on my bracket.
This feels
to the Elite Eight.
This feels like borderline witchcraft somehow.
This is a
That's wonderful prose.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, quite lovely.
You do not have to treat me with any respect. I understand it's ridiculous.
Mr. President,
I like the outcome.
Mr. President, and I'm Bill Curry. I'm here because I'm Julia's guardian ad litem, and I have a somewhat serious question for you. So, when we started interviewing Wofford all those many years ago, it was like we felt like we were doing you the favor. You know, this was a long shot team. And now we feel like we got in on the ground floor.
Right. We bought love.
And now, Colin wants credit for seeing it all a decade in advance. But were there changes? I mean, this really is a 7 seed, a top 20 ranking in the AP. Did you make changes in the program? Does this reflect some commitments in the university, or did you just draw a great class and is everybody just doing their job a little better?
You know, I think it's that's a great question. I think what it reflects is an extraordinary high-quality academic institution, a unique student experience, a unique student-athlete experience with an outstanding coach and coaching staff who understands what we are all about. And those are the ingredients, I think, of success. You know, for an institution like ours of 1,600 and some students playing in Division I basketball. And our coach is an extraordinary leader. His staff, everybody knows what the college is about and what the program is about. It's about being competitive on the court, but also graduating our student athletes on time to successful lives and careers. And that's a wonderful recipe. And they stay 4 years. We have few transfers. We have an extraordinary facility, and that facility is probably one of the finest of any college facility in the country, and a fabulous fan base in Spartanburg, on campus, in the upstate of South Carolina.
Well, you give them snacks.
All of those ingredients create a fabulous blend that has brought us where we are today.
Well, we should say also that tonight, when the Cough Nerds play Sweet and Tall, people who love basketball, who are kind of newcomers to basketball, want to watch Wofford because Fletcher McGee is one of the incredible outside shooters to play the game. He is probably going to break the Division I career three-point shooting record at some point during this tournament.
He passed Steph Curry
a
few weeks
ago. And he's like Steph Curry in the sense that you can have the other team, Sweet and Tall, can have a game plan to stop Fletcher McGee, and it won't work. I mean, other coaches have said, other than breaking his legs, we don't know what we can do. We could put two guys on him, and he's still going to fall back and make these three-point shots. We can't stop him, very much like Steph Curry. So, I mean, that's a good reason to watch. Do you have a late game? Are you 9:45 tonight?
Yeah, we're 9:40 tonight. You know, one of the things about the team, and Fletcher is emblematic of it, he's just a great kid. He's no airs about him. He's a good, nice young man, and all of them are. And what's unique about this team is Fletcher gets an enormous amount of well-deserved attention. He's on the cusp of matching and breaking that three-point record. But they pass the ball around. If everyone steps up in a timely fashion, and it's a really well-bonded team, a well-integrated team.
And this Cameron Jackson is fabulous.
Of really nice, good young men. Cameron Jackson is extraordinary under the basket.
So President Samhat, earlier in the show, I asked Bill Curry if he knew where, based on his his place of origin, one might have geographically expected Zion Williamson, the kind of unquestioned greatest college basketball player in the country right now, where he might have been expected to go. I'll let you answer that question, President Samhat.
Well, Zion, he was in Spartanburg, and Mike, identified Zion long before many others did. And Zion had visited the college, watched a few games, played in our arena, and during his high school days, and we thought maybe he would come over to Wofford.
Well, that would have been nice. Hey, I want to salute you guys for one other thing that I discovered about Wofford this week, which is that when you're not playing basketball, one of the things you do is host an ethics bowl. We never needed an ethics bowl as much as we need it now. This is a thing where high school ethics teams get together and match wits and principles, right?
Yes, absolutely. It was a great success. We did it in January, brought a lot of several hundred young people to our campus and their families. And you're absolutely right. The key, young people have to understand the foundations of good decision making and the consequences of decisions. An ethics bowl competition is just a reflection of young people understanding that there are consequences. There are ways to think about things, and there's a good way to do things and a bad way. And it was a very successful event. We're going to do it every year.
It's a great idea. It's a terrific idea. The one thing that I would caution you is keep the agents and the middlemen away from those big high school ethics recruits, because if the money gets into the ethics bowl, you're going to never get it back. President Dave Samhat from Wofford College. We, of course, are rooting all the way for Wofford, particularly because Yale may lose to LSU today. So thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll talk to you next year.
Absolutely. Look forward to it. Thank you.
Good luck. We got to take a break. And then we're going to go to at least auditorially to the Hartford Civic Center for our new feature.
Ask you, Frankie.
All right. We'll be back after this. And so we have a little problem with the board here. Maybe AccuFrankie just kind of overloaded our circuits. I'm going to just kind of talk for a second. Do you think there's any possibility you're going to be able to unlock the board? You're actually hearing sort of fourth wall stuff. So let me tell you what's going on here, because that'll be a good thing to do. Julia Pastel is here in studio with us, writer, podcaster, comedian, host of the podcast Literary Disco, and managing director at CT Improv in Hartford. Now's a good time to talk about, there was a whole thing about what to do downtown this weekend while you're there for the basketball games, and maybe you don't have tickets for everything. CT Improv, I'm sure, is running stuff this weekend, but the big thing's coming, right?
Yeah, well, we're open every weekend in downtown Hartford. If you're one of those people who's like, I don't know what to do in Hartford, or I went to the Bushnell once a year, now what do I do? You should come to CT Improv. We're a tiny underground comedy, sketch and improv theater, and we're open every single Friday and Saturday with 2 shows a night. So come on down. We're definitely going to be doing stuff around the games. We'll be out on the streets trying to lure people into the world of the arts. That'll be fun. But on April 4th through 7th, we hold a huge improv festival. It's actually been named by other improvisers as one of the best in the country. We bring 50 teams from throughout the Northeast, all the way from California, Canada, et cetera, to right here to Hartford. So go to our website, ctimprov.com, and it's April 4th through 7th, and you can just binge on comedy. It's really, really, really
fun. All
right,
Casey Grambo, paid in full. All right, we can go to the break now. I think the board's working.
Why do they not talk about the International Division I Kangaroo Boxing Championships also being held this weekend in Houston? Check your human privilege, host and guests. Today's show started out being produced by Jonathan McPants with me, Chion Wolf, but then Betsy Kaplan took over because Simon Letter McPants was born in a manger. The part of Bill Curry was played by Bill Curry. Oh no, space-time vortex singularity. We're all turning into pickles. On tomorrow's show, the nose swings into the Spider-Verse and meets Monica Lewinsky. And now get ready, because it's time for...
After you, Frankie.
That's right. We are debuting a brand new feature here on the Colin McEnroe Show, NCAA March Madness Special, and that is the presence of Frankie Graziano, who is right now at the XL Center offering us a special report, which we are trademarking as...
After you, Frankie.
All right.
Happy Voz Madness, happy Snipmas.
Yes. All right. You know, we already did the vasectomy thing. You're too late for that part. But it was a good joke anyway. So first of all, maybe just describe what's happening right now, where you're standing. Hopefully there's no huge mechanical defect going on in the XL Center right
water
now.
pipes bursting and within view.
Escalators working. Everything's good,
Not
right?
like that. And surprisingly, everybody I talked to, at least some of the few people I've talked to, not saying anything bad about the XL Center, which I guess is a win. But right now I'm standing in the tunnel right next to the court. There's a bunch of people here. I would say it's about half full, maybe a little more now that people are starting to sit down. But a lot of green and yellow here, a lot of people from Vermont. I spoke to a member of the fans here at Catamounts here, the Vermont Catamounts. 4.5 hours about it said it took them to get here by bus, so that's not bad.
Yeah, no, that's not bad at all. So Julia Pistell, who's in here, and she's using rhymes to analyze the tournament. She's pretty excited about Vermont because you rhymed it with your aunt.
Yeah.
Do you think people like their aunts?
Yeah, aunts are cool.
Yeah. So I mean, Vermont, Frankie, would be technically an underdog, a 13 seed against a 4 versus Florida State. Do we remember what does Florida State rhyme with? Do you remember, Julia?
Sure. It's a boar in a crate.
A boar in a crate.
Which is quite threatening, but
like a boar,
trapped.
like a big wild pig.
Yes, but they're trapped, so of course your aunt is going to win out.
Okay. So, but Frankie, as a basketball analyst, I'm assuming. Well, I mean, people do like Vermont, right? It's a scrappy team with some good players.
Yeah, if you remember, they had Taylor Coppenrath back in the day. They authored one of like those original NCAA tournament upsets back in 2005. I don't think they're going to do it this year. I like Florida State a lot with their athleticism. Obviously, they're hanging around the big boys in Duke and North Carolina. I actually like Florida State to go to the Final Four, and I think you're going to see in about 10 minutes they might start off and get off to the races against Vermont.
All right, so Bill Curry has already talked a little bit about the Marquette versus Murray State matchup, which is happening right here in Hartford at the conclusion of that game featuring your aunt and a boar in a crate. And so, Frankie, I'm sure you want to say a little bit about this, too. I mean, we might have the most interesting, exciting first-round game in the country right here.
Yeah, you know, it's a game that everybody's talking about. It's all about Marcus Howard versus John Morant. You hear from the people that are shooting with cameras today actually talking about the matchup and saying, hey, I got to look out for this guy. So that's how much this has been talked about. But just looking at the players, John Morant's the one that everybody's been talking about. His stock potential is going up there. Him and Zion, they're up in the top 5. John Morant averages like 25 points a game. But, you know, he hasn't had the kind of competition that Marcus Howard faces game in and game out in the Big East. They made it to the Big East semifinals this year. They lost against Seton Hall. I like Marcus Howard. You know, he's 5'10". He's a little smaller, so his draft stock isn't as high as Ja is, but I like Marquette in that game.
All right, so we should tell you right now that you're being offered special basketball analysis courtesy of...
After you, Frankie.
So I think it's time. I think we need to get people like an upset to watch for. You've got an upset that's not being played in Hartford, I believe, but there's a number 13 versus a number 4 game. So let's get ready for the
After you, Frankie.
upset of this tournament. Frankie, give it to us.
All right, my Frankie Graziano upset of the tournament
No, it's
is
called. No, it's not called.
13,
Wait.
number 4 Kansas.
Wait. It's not the Frankie Graziano upset. It's the
After you, Frankie.
upset. All right. So now do it again.
Thanks, Frank.
Hey, your beautiful dry humor that I can't come across right now when I'm in the stand, so I apologize. You get all these people yelling, and it's hard to hear you, so I apologize.
We spent $50,000 to create that sound effect. We're going to use it. All right.
Yeah,
Let's hear it again.
$2
You want to hear it again?
After you, Frankie.
There you go. Okay, now give us the upset.
I love it.
Okay, give us the upset now. It's Kansas
Okay,
versus
here comes the upset. Number 13, Northeastern over Kansas, the number 4 seed. Now, Kansas is traveling to Salt Lake City this year. That never happens for them. They always win the Big 12. They're always good at home and on the road. But this year, not so good on the road. It's a little bit of traveling. Northeastern, that team from Boston that everybody knows locally, they hit three-pointers. I think 4 players have 50 three-pointers this year. That's a perfect upset recipe. Give me Northeastern.
All right. So, first of all, some terrific reporting there from the Civic Center. And just once again to kind of round out what you said at the beginning, Civic Center, the XL Center looks fine, right? I mean, there's no, and the people coming in there, they're not seeing, like there's no colony of monkeys living in the rafters or anything like that, right? Everything's good.
I know that would be the smoking gun, right? No, but I spoke to Chris Lawrence, who runs the building, and it's a lot of the things they want some modernization, right?
Right.
Amenities. They want maybe some of the cabling in the building to improve so that they can get like some of these big ticket acts. I've been scoping around trying to find a leak or something like that, and I know that would be hot for the local listeners to hear something like that. Haven't seen it yet,
all right.
But generally people that are walking in, I even spoke to a guy from Rhode Island who usually goes to the tournament in Providence, and he's happy to be here this year, not in Providence, about an hour and a half to get here, and he didn't say a bad thing either, so.
Well,
we'll see.
First of all, I know that you got as a newsman, you have a series coming up here on WNPR about sports betting. My suggestion would be, in terms of fixing up the Civic Center, have the CRDA, which runs the Civic Center, take about $10 million and bet on some of these games, and maybe they'll have enough money to fix up the center when it's over. So, Frankie Graziano,
based on a rhyme.
Yeah,
yeah,
based on a rhyme, exactly.
On a rhyme.
Use Julia's method, and bet on.
I can't even tell you how people locally here are nervous about people betting on college sports. So if I say something out loud, I might get taken out by one of the security officials.
Frankie, by the time this series is over, you're totally getting whacked anyway. It doesn't make any difference. So thanks very much. A big success here with
Frankie.
All right, we're signing out with Frankie. It's time for our in-studio analysts to make their final predictions. Bill Curry, first of all, tell us about your Final Four analysis.
Well, I'm rooting for Gonzaga because they're the least corrupted, most Jesuit school, and actually, and they play it closest to the old-fashioned way that I learned to love when I was young. And a few years ago, I embarrassed myself by predicting Duke, which was, despite all the moral hazard, and.
You sold out.
And I did. I sold out. And
wait a minute, you sold out Gonzaga for Duke?
No, this is
you went chalk.
This is a few years. This is before I had a big conversion experience.
Okay.
And now I just who wants to be for Duke, whatever they're called. I'm not for them. I don't care how good they look. I'm sticking with Gonzaga 100%. Let's go old school.
All right, so Gonzaga to win.
Yeah, and this is, by the way, I don't think you've appreciated my expertise. I invented both the step back jumper and the double pump fake.
But you didn't.
So I bring a lot. No, I can't.
Rhymes
Julia,
and anagrams.
No, I can't win this. But still,
I don't think you invented rhyming.
Still, you should go out and invest. I'd say you could bet up to $3 on Gonzaga.
Okay,
I say
great.
so.
Here's my Final Four.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you just the rhymes.
Okay.
You guys can figure it out from
All
there.
right.
So we have Koffner made it to my Final Four.
Okay, that's Wofford.
And they're going to match up against Menace P. Of course.
Menace P.
Which, of course, is Tennessee.
Okay. Menace P.
Menace P. Very
that's like
scary.
You should see a urologist about that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe get that vasectomy while you're there.
But then, on the other hand, the other half of my Final Four are Hell Yes Boo.
LSU.
Yes, correct. And Nexus Drek.
Texas Tech.
That's right.
I'm getting better at this.
Yes, you are. So Nexus Drek is gross stuff from the universe, and I took them all the way. I think Nexus Drek is going to win.
Nexus Drek's of gross stuff that kind of came through a black hole.
Correct.
And is oozing like oobleck back to Dr. Seuss.
Nothing can beat
across
that.
the landscape.
They're going to win.
Okay.
I think this is my year.
Yes.
I think this is my year.
Yeah.
I think I've got her where I want her now.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. This is getting even more exciting. And I'm going with Clarkson in the Frozen Four.
Oh, the Frozen
Which is
Four.
right in Hamden.
Yeah.
And what you have is Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Cornell and Clarkson. 3 of those have won every championship in the 21st century.
So the Frozen Four, just so people know, is the Final Four of women's college hockey.
College
Could
hockey.
I say
It's
one thing
right
about
here
the Frozen
Quinnipiac
Four?
University this weekend.
Could I say one thing about the Frozen Four?
It's
All right.
hockey without fighting.
No, it's, you know what it is? First of all, the entire draw is 8 teams. So the Frozen Four
that's how they
consists
get there.
of the 4 teams that won their first
And
game.
they're of all sizes. Colgate,
Yes.
Colgate, Harvard, University of Minnesota.
Right.
Clarkson
But they
wins.
won their
I
first
got a
game.
Julia.
All right, we have to stop
Clarkson
now.
wins because they're closest to Canada.
Running out of time. Thanks for listening. I could give you some emails, some people you could complain to about this show, but what's the use? We're just going to do it again next year.
See you in a year.